Hello, welcome to your discussion section and this university forum. Today we will address a very interesting and necessary topic on the subject of international relations. To begin, I would like to put into the context what terrorism is in order to better understand the forum.
Thank you. Okay, terrorism is a form of political violence that directly targets and attacks a government to destabilize or cause fear among the population. Usually, a terrorism group resorts to kidnaps, armed attacks, bombings, political murders, and social threats. Most of the time, their goal is to spread their ideologies, and they usually do so by force because they are not always supported by the population. Although to gain sympathizers, extremist groups recruiting poor people from low resources regions under the promise of improving their equality life. A sector that directly and negatively affects women is that which is what I would like to ask my colleague Valeria. Who are women affected?
Yeah, gender is understood as the socially constructed expectation and idealization that individuals and society place on persons based in their perceived biological sex. Many countries have made formal commitments on gender equality, but compliance with these commitments is weakened by several factors, from scarcity of resources to various inconsistencies in the ratification of laws, through disputation caused by natural disasters or pandemics. For example, during COVID-19 confinement, an analysis of the Asia-Pacific region reveals a huge increase in online search for help for intimate partner violence in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as an increase in the levels of misogyny and harassment in the file digital. These conclusions recount long-standing concerns about the safety and well-being of women and girls in the midst of the current global crisis. Having said that, let's listen now, Vanessa.
Terrorism has caused many political and social setbacks, such as forcing women to comply with a strict dress code, so much so that they have to cover their entire bodies in regions of the middle. When it comes to minoritarious communities such as LGBT and feminists are among the biggest targets of extremist groups. This has been so serious that agencies such as the United Nations have called on those countries with concentrations of terrorism groups to impose sanctions and advocate for the acceptance of these communities in the country, yet these groups insist on following harmful tools. I would like to give the voice to my colleague Andrea Roldan and ask her the following questions. In your opinion, what has the international community done to combat terrorism?
Thank you. Recent United Nations initiatives demonstrate a growing recognition by member states that international terrorism represents a global change that can only be effectively combated by the international community as a whole. The United Nations, by virtue of its universal character and global nature, can and must take up this challenge. Its past performance in this area was conditioned by the ideological confrontation inherent in the Cold War, which prevent both an unequivocal condemnation of international terrorism and the design of appropriate measures to combat it. The tenor of the new initiatives, facilitated by the new international context, augurs a more effective future response. For their part, organizations such as the OSCE are working together to this and integrating on-led international counter-terrorism initiatives that address the manifestation of terrorism, as well as the various social, economic, political, and other factors that can create the condition for terrorist organization to recruit members and gain support.
Okay, we have already seen terrorism from different points of view, and probably a recurring question would be, what can we do to eradicate or at least mitigate its damage, at least for a little bit? And this is why terrorism has reached the point of becoming such a serious problem that is even contemplated in almost all international agendas, due to the damage it causes and will continue to cause if efficient measures are not taken. In addition to international security, the area of gender has been strongly affected, even when violence against women is supposed to be combated. In this sense, some possible solutions would be to continue to monitor the different types of aggression to which women may be more vulnerable, as well as to develop strong policies to eradicate gender discrimination. In spite of this, the best option will always be to do our best to leave behind obsolete ideas that minimize women's capabilities, as well as to monitor and properly address any trends of inappropriate behavior, no matter who commits it, because it's so much easier to avoid a spark than to put out a fire.
Finally, my colleague Valeria Sinaí and Luis Angel will give some conclusions.
During the 21st century, terrorism has become one of the most important issues on the international agenda, particularly after the September 11 attack in the United States. Although terrorism occurs to a greater extent in some places, no country is exempt from these attacks. That is why it should not be minimized for any reason. Its constant media appearance, fear of attacks by extremist groups. We have to look up and improve security on the part of the states. In addition, it also directly endangers our way of life, our principles, and state sovereignty. Clearly, terrorism has very real and direct effects on human rights, with devastating consequences for the exercise of the right to life, liberty, and physical integrity of the victims.
Terrorism is remaining in the world since there is always a fight for power. We have to point out that the main way of facing this issue is through the use of guns. Heavy weaponry has offset the lack of dialogue. When it comes to gender, we still have to foster equality to women. Cultural changes may curb the daily victims' number. Unfortunately, countries like Afghanistan are still unreachable. Religion and ideologies outweigh the human rights. So we can say that the general outlook may look up, but it will be difficult. We hope that United Nations, governments, and organizations pull off better solutions to this. They need to go over what they have done and speed up the endeavors. That's what I think.
Okay, this has been a very discussion. Thank you all for tuning in. See you on the next broadcast. Bye.